Hi, Jim Roddy here from the RSPA, jumping in before today's podcast with an update on Retail Now 2025, the Retail Technology Channel's #1 trade show, education conference, and networking event. So, first, the basics. You can join RSPA and Retail IT channel leaders live and in person July 27th through the 29th on the Strip in Las Vegas at Caesars Palace. With nearly 200 exhibitors, Retail Now is one stop shopping for VARs and ISVs, and with an expected 1,600 or more attendees, it's the place for extreme industry connectivity. Across just 48 hours, you'll meet new partners and new solution providers who can accelerate the success of your business. Now, here's something that's new for retail in 2025. The focus of the event is going to be helping retail IT VARs and ISVs better compete against what we call the margin obliterating, VC backed, 800 number, one size fits all POS providers who don't have a channel. The general session and many of the 18 breakout sessions will address that topic directly, and the remaining breakouts will offer guidance to help you become a better leader, improve your company culture, grow your sales, improve your customer service, and learn about new technologies. So if you're serious about the retail IT channel and you're serious about beating the 800 number guys, you have to attend Retail Now 2025, July 27th through 29th in Vegas. Retail Now is where the industry meets. For all the details and to register at discounted early bird rates, visit the Retail Now website today at gorspa.org/retail now. Again, gorspa.org/retail now. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Trusted Advisor podcast and video series powered by the Retail Solutions Providers Association. Our goal on the pod is to accelerate the success of today's and tomorrow's leaders in the retail IT industry. I'm Jim Roddy, back with you again. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, this is a special episode that we're recording based on an RSPA member request. So a longtime reseller member reached out to me and he said something along the lines of, it'd be great if the RSPA could show vendors who sell direct and through the channel how to balance that properly. And that's not his exact quote. He used phrases like treat VARs like second-class citizens, things of that nature. He wants to elevate the conversation. So to find out how this can be done, we reached out to several RSPA VAR members and asked them which of their vendors they believe does this well. And two companies that were mentioned by those members were Toshiba and Popmenu. So please welcome to the Trusted Advisor podcast. First, Crystal Harrison. She is Toshiba Global Commerce Solutions Vice President of Channel and Pre-Sales Solution Architects. Hey, Crystal, great to talk with you again and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, everybody.
No, great to have you here. And our special guest is Tony Roy. He's the president and co-founder of software provider Popmenu. Tony, it is nice to connect with you.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Excellent. So am I. So if you can both help our audience understand your perspectives, tell us what your organizations look like in 2025. And Crystal, if you can go first, and I think most everybody listening or watching, right, they know the Toshiba brand. Tony said before we started recording, he remembers one of his first gifts as a kid was a Toshiba TV, right? But talk about what Toshiba looks like from a retail IT channel perspective today.
Yeah, and I'll kind of start with that, right? Toshiba, the mothership, we like to call it, makes everything from turbines to car engines to TVs and retail technologies. They own multiple wholly owned subsidiaries, and Toshiba Global Commerce Solutions, who's the company I work for, is one of those wholly owned subsidiaries. And at Toshiba Global Commerce Solutions, we focus entirely on retail. That's all we do. And it's retail technologies. So if you look across the front end of a store, things like point of sale solutions, point of sale software, self-checkout, self-service solutions, and software that go along with that, hardware, software, and services across that, for everything from wall-to-wall maintenance to through the technology itself. And we also have, over the last couple of years, added new innovations to our front-end store technology around IoT technology, loss prevention strategies, produce recognition strategies. And we've wrapped all of that up with a vertical focus across grocery, hospitality, specialty, and convenience. So that's kind of who Toshiba Global Commerce Solutions is. From my organization perspective, we used to have what I would call a very direct sales team with a very small channel. And we have this year pivoted to more of a channel first strategy. So when you look at my channel organization, and they've asked me to lead that organization. So when you look at my organization specifically, I have channel sales, I have channel marketing, I have channel enablement for all of North America, as well as the solution architects that support all of those business, our direct and our channel sales teams for the Americas. The nice thing about having all of those underneath my leadership is the fact that we control our own destiny. Many times when you look at channel organizations at other companies, you might have channel sales as one pillar and marketing as a different pillar and enablements as a different pillar. And so each of those are kind of dotted line and having to, check with each other to get things done. With everything being underneath my umbrella and my organization, I'm able to really accelerate the programs I'm bringing to market and make the changes we need to make across all those organizations without having to have any red tape. So we're really in control of our own destiny. So it's working out really nicely for all the different projects I'm working on this year.
Got it. And you said that was a fairly recent change, right? Like this isn't the exact way Toshiba's been organized for years and years. Is that correct?
Correct. We were very siloed before. I took over the channel in January of this year. So I started working on building the plan last year. So I have been involved, very involved. But one of the big changes I brought to management was we have to collapse this. We have to bring it all together. And there's a lot of work we got to do to roll out my new strategies. And so that's why we started making those changes.
Great. Thank you for that. Appreciate those details. Thanks for setting the scene. Tony,
Yeah.
can you tell our audience the story of when and how Popmenu started and then what the company looks like today?
Sure. Yeah. Oh man, what a journey. We're in our 8th year now, but Popmenu is an all-in-one SaaS solution for restaurants. We've been described as think about an Amazon e-com experience on the front end, meaning the websites, my interaction with the menu, combined with a back-end CRM system like Salesforce or HubSpot. Salesforce is actually one of our smaller investment partners, but we started the business 8 years ago, really just with an idea of why are menus so bad online? We traveled a lot for work, both domestically and in Europe. I lived in London for 9 years. And you'd go to a restaurant site and you'd go straight to the menu, right? That's the primary decision point. And you'd see a static text experience or PDF, and you're like, wow, I wish I knew what that dish was or what it looked like, so I had an indication of quality. I wish I could read reviews about what items I should be trying. I wish I had a one-click path to purchase, And what you found is you couldn't get that information from the restaurant. So you'd have to go to some third-party site to look at reviews or find visual content and things like that. So that's where the idea started is, hey, let's just make menus better. And then when we got into it, we had underestimated just how fragmented it was for restaurant operators, meaning, most of them, even to this day, are using 10 or 12 different tools or vendors, email, social media, online ordering, website, menus. Like it's really crazy. And those systems don't talk to each other. You don't get economies of scale. A lot of them are highly manual, and restaurants don't have the time for a lot of that manual activity that's really important. So that's how we started the idea. And then we've now grown to where really anything restaurants are using or should be using to attract and engage and ultimately transact with consumers is now in the platform. And so now instead of having 10 different tools or vendors, they have one. Instead of having manual work, now a lot of it's automated or done for them. They can play the role of editor in chief instead of having to think of everything to create from scratch. So, we have thousands and thousands of restaurants. We're primarily in North America, but we also have people and customers in the UK. And I'm joining you today from Chicago, where we had the National Restaurant Association, and we signed customers in Mexico City, a couple in Australia, and a few in Brazil. So what we do is really a global opportunity to help restaurants. I think from our perspective, restaurants have been overcharged for decades to use tools that we know are not going to optimize the results. And a lot of times people those vendors that are working with restaurants are not always incentivized for the restaurant to be more independent. And so we can do all those things instead of paying $2,000 a month. Maybe they're paying $600 or $700 with us, and they're getting a lot better results. So that's a good recipe. But that's where
Very
we are,
interesting.
and we're focused on scaling.
Yeah. So you said focus on scaling. Like, how many employees do you have right now? Where are you looking to be in a
Yeah.
few years?
I think we're around 260, 270
Okay.
employees, 270 employees, something like that. Yeah, I mean, I think we focused more on like it's not always you don't always necessarily want to be overly labor intensive. We focus first and foremost on buying tools that make our existing team more efficient. They can do more with less. Obviously,
Yeah.
AI is a thing. We've been doing AI for 7 years. Started with sentiment analysis on first party reviews, but now AI is built in throughout the platform. A really simple way that people can use AI is to help me generate the copy, basically what I'm going to say in the email or the social. And so, most restaurants are way too busy, and then they're worried about writing the perfect post. And then what happens is they don't have consistency in the messaging. And that's a big no-no. No matter what, just put a picture of that juicy burger and that cold beer in the background. And as long as you're consistent, there's a direct correlation between that and transactions. So our goal is to simplify it. Our headcount is what it is. I don't know that we're focused on trying to grow that to 300 or reducing that headcount. We're more focused on how do you make them better and do more with less. So
Got it.
yeah.
No, that's helpful. Super. Okay, so we're going to talk channel management tactics a lot today, but first I want to hear each of your, I'd say, philosophies or guiding principles related to treating your channel fairly while also maintaining that direct sales force. So, Crystal, if you can go first, like what is one principle or one philosophy that guides you and your team in this area?
Yeah, I mean, I think my number one guiding principle is we cannot scale or grow our business without the channel, period, the end. And in order to make that a reality, you have to have a channel first strategy. Right? And so that is my guiding principle. That is what we have built as part of this new organization. And when you're dealing with a company like ours that has traditionally had direct sellers and a channel, what my message to those teams is you can successfully do both if it's done right. And it does require a mindset change, and it does require a change in the way you do business because you have to sit and you have to get the sales teams to understand and stop thinking of them as two separate selling motions. So in the past, our direct sales teams would go to market and they had their accounts and they would never think to bring a partner in to help them. And because of that, they were very limited in the number of accounts that they could cover. And so there's a lot of accounts out there that need a channel partner because we have a small sales force. And we just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to get to everything. Now, as you can imagine from a sales team's perspective, those people who are used to working on an opportunity and controlling the destiny of that opportunity from soup to nuts, for them it was a mindset change to be able to stop and think about that as, hey, if I bring a partner in, what is that going to do to my deal? Am I still going to be able to win it? And so that is a lot of the conversations that I've been having with our sales teams about how you successfully do that. And to stop thinking of it as two selling motions. Instead, think of it as force multiplying yourself. If you have a loyal and a great channel, they can be out there transacting. They can be out there complimenting the work you're doing. They can be picking up and doing the heavy lifting. So those account executives have more time to go be the brand ambassador for Toshiba that they are and open more doors. And so that's the message that I have taken back to our direct sales teams, that don't think of this as, hey, I'm losing control, because I did put programs in place to be able to allow them to still control the destiny of that opportunity or that account while still working with a partner. And in that scenario, everybody wins. And the
Yeah.
reality is when you start feeding your channel in that way, your channel begins to reciprocate. And that is just not something we've experienced in the past with the way we did business before, where they were very separate selling motions. And they're now starting to feel that. My sellers are. They're like, oh, wow, I just got an opportunity from a channel partner. And they never got those before.
Yeah, and
So,
And
Yeah.
I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, but I just know from working with salespeople in the past and talking about partner relationships, a lot of times it's, hey, there's this partner's going to come in, and their first thing is they're going to screw this thing up, right? So
Yes.
it sounds like you were saying you have to change that mindset of, no, this person can actually help you and be, like you said, a force multiplier versus someone who's going to bollocks the whole thing up, if I'm understanding that correctly.
That's right. That's right. And to give my account executives the comfort level of that, we put into place a deal registration program. And that deal registration program, we can approve as either a Toshiba led opportunity or a channel led opportunity. And we have complete rules of engagement around how we go to market with that partner, what our expectations are with that partner. And if it's Toshiba led, that means it's an opportunity we're driving and we're aware of, and we brought a partner in to work with us. And if it's channel led, it's obviously the opposite. We're not aware of that opportunity. The channel is bringing that to us. And because we put these rules of engagement in place, it's given our sales teams a lot more comfort in the fact that I'm going to be able to bring a partner in. I'm going to tell them, I want you to do this, but I don't want you to do that. I'd like you to come in and help me with this part, and I'm going to do that part. And it becomes a very collaborative pursuit between our partners and our selling AEs. And so far that's been working really, really well.
Good. Good. Thank you for that, Crystal. Tony, what would be a guiding principle or philosophy that really drives you to treat your channel fairly while also having a direct sales force?
Yeah. So channel, in our business, we're focused primarily on like SMB restaurant owners. So it could be anywhere between 1 to 100 locations. Incredibly difficult profession. They are the busiest people on the planet, in my opinion. There's a million different challenges and obstacles that change every day for these guys. For us, what it does, the channel, one example of a great channel partner for us is Cisco, the largest food distributor, in North America. And what they do is, our job is to help their customers be more successful. If their customers are healthier, then obviously they're going to buy more products and services from Cisco. So everybody wins in the scenario. What it does for us is it really validates us in the market. Like, for example, Cisco is going in every day or every couple times a week, delivering the products, selling them new things. And they're trusted advisors. And so if Cisco says, hey, you should meet with Popmenu because you've told me you have these 3 challenges and you're not able to get enough customers in the door, Popmenu can solve that. It's like we've been vetted, so already we're kind of in a better spot than if we're just calling blind. When you call blind, it's almost like, well, are you just like another salesperson? How do I know? Whereas when a channel person makes an introduction or represents you, there's a level of, being vetted, so to speak. So for us, it accelerates our access to ownership. And it goes and we start off already kind of like on second base, so to speak. And we've expanded that relationship. So where our channel is defined as, either it could be like a lead partner, they're sending us referrals, or reseller networks. For example, we've really built out our reseller network in the POS space. So people like Heartland or Square leverage reseller companies. And so we've tapped into that market where those guys are a bit more sophisticated from a technical perspective. They can talk about Popmenu in a way that's going to represent the brand well. It extends our GTM. It just naturally, we have more conversations, and we have more conversations, we grow the business and we learn faster and we can develop the product. So that's kind of how our system, I would say for us, it's critical. Like, I don't know how you can be selling to restaurant space and not be ingrained in channel relationships. Like, I just think it would be too expensive, take too much time. So it's been a huge aspect of our growth. I was actually very lucky and fortunate. We started the business. I didn't really know anything about restaurants. My last company was Career Builder. And I remember I was walking door to door, and I walked into a restaurant, and I saw a Cisco truck outside, and I just did a Google search, and I didn't know. And I was in Southern California, and they popped up the Riverside office, and I just cold called the president, Saul Aldersberg, great guy. He called me back in 10 minutes, invited me in, and the rest is history. So nice. I owe him a lot. But yeah, I think channel's huge. I mean, like Krista was saying, it allows you to be more with less. There's a vetting aspect of it. So yeah, it's been huge for us.
Thank you. And it seems like your philosophy there was help our partners help
Right.
their customers become more
Right.
successful. That's what it
Right.
sounds like. It's not just, hey, what can we get out of this? It's really a
Yeah.
pass through and realize they're
Right.
trusted advisors.
I mean, if you think about, Cisco can have the best products. They can have the most reliable delivery times. Their sales consultant can just be great with response time. But at the end of the day, if the restaurant doesn't have enough guests to service, if they can't do it in a way that's creating some margin impact for them, then someone like Cisco is always limited in how many products they're going to be able to sell that customer. So it is like, I hate consultant speak, but it is a win-win-win. Like at the end of the day, most important is the restaurant owner wins. But for Cisco, they give their client a better opportunity to be healthier. And healthy businesses stay in business. Healthy businesses, they buy more premium products. Healthy businesses that improve their margins, they expand into third and fifth locations, which again create more buying opportunities. So one is it's proved itself out. So we do make a great impact for vast majority of our clients. And so that whole pitch to Cisco ended up becoming true like we thought it would. So that's a good example of how we think about it.
Great.
And
Thank you for
Tony,
that. Yeah.
Tony, it sounds like we need to get you on our ISV program.
Yeah, I
Sounds
was
like we
thinking
could
we
have a
should
good
do it.
partnership.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just that's happened in these podcasts before. We had a couple folks who hadn't worked together, and then they ended up having a great partnership.
We've had one or
And
two
so,
that resulted in the same fashion. Yeah, we get somebody
Yeah.
on there and like, oh, well, we do this and we don't do what you do. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. And the opposite's never happened yet, where they end up disliking each other and say at the end of the podcast, "I never want to talk
That's
to you
good.
again." We still have about 30 minutes left, so we'll see where it goes. Hopefully, it'll stay that way. We'll keep our streak going. So, well, thank you for that. So, and let me channel again the reseller who this podcast is for. He can be skeptical, and so he might have heard everything you guys said and was like, "Yeah, those are like slogans you put up on walls." But tell me about the specific action. So, Crystal, if you can talk first, like what's a key tactic, right, that makes sure that to help you manage your channel and manage direct sales and managing the friction in between? You mentioned one before. You said about a deal registration program. Can you speak specifically to that skeptical reseller and say, oh, here's like one or two or three key things that we do that help reduce the friction and conflict between the two groups?
I actually have 9 things that I
Oh,
do.
all right.
So,
All right, here we go.
It started at the top, right? As a global company like we are, of course, we have some very large customers like the Walmarts of the world. And so we set up front to our partners, here's our 10, 15 direct accounts that are always going to stay direct, right? That's the way those companies prefer to buy. But the remainder of the thousands of accounts that we do business with, we're going to put through the channel. And to make a channel first strategy work, it has to start at the top. So you will see from our organization's perspective, our CEO went on an all hands call globally and said, we are moving to a channel first strategy. And this is the way things are going to be, and lots of changes are going to happen because of that. At our executive leadership team, because this, to go channel first, there's a sales side of that, and then there's also an operational side of that. That means your products have to be ready for the channel. All of the systems have to be ready for the channel. All of your demo programs and all those things have to be in place, and inventory at distributors and all those things every time you launch a new product. So there's a lot of back end things that we actually had to fix as a company to be able to make this strategy a reality. And I spent the last year building all of those systems and getting all of that done so that this year, as we started to launch products, they would all be with that channel first mindset in place so that we could actually execute on it from a sales strategy. So, but from the sales side, starts at the top, CEO down has enforced that. We put executive leadership on the channel, which we didn't really have before. So somebody to really drive that strategy across the organizations. And then our sales leaders are all bought in. So that's what I mean by a top-down organization message from that. So your frontline managers are telling the sellers, hey, where's the partner in on this, right? Reinforcing that message. The other side of that is you have to incentivize your sellers. They're going to look at this. If I'm a direct seller and I've been selling at some price point, my margins are going to be reduced and my revenue is going to be reduced when I bring a channel partner in because I'm selling through the channel now. So what we did was we put in into their compensation plans, incentives to be able to push their deals through the channel. And when they hit a certain threshold, they get 2x kickers on their commissions. So that was another piece that made the sellers feel comfortable that they weren't going to get penalized for using the channel. So now you got managers pushing down that, and you've got sellers being incentivized. On top of that, we put the deal registration in place, like I mentioned, so they could feel comfortable that they were still going to be in control of their big deals that they've been managing in the past, and that they were going to get to choose the partners they wanted to bring in and work with. And then on top of that, we put very strict rules in place that said, if you're in an existing account, because we weren't going to try to go back and retrofit deals that we closed, 2 years ago, and try to make that work. But we said in all existing accounts, if it's a net new opportunity, it must have a partner attached to it. And if it doesn't have a partner attached to it, not only does it need their direct line manager's approval, but it needs my approval. And, from my perspective, I'm not going to just approve because someone says, oh, it's not easy, or it's going to be difficult, or the margins don't look good enough. For me, really the only thing in my mind is the customer says, I absolutely do not want to buy from a partner. And in that case, we have to respect the customer's decision. But I have given talking points to those sales reps to try to convince them of the value a partner can bring to them. And so that was part of the extensive seller training we did for our teams. So we did that in one-on-one sessions. We did that at our sales kickoff. And we've really spent a lot of time with our sellers, walking them through, this is how you do this correctly. Telling them you have to bring the partners in early. If you bring them in at the tail end just to transact, you don't give them the opportunity to help you along the way. And they do things better than we do, and we do some things better than the partners do. So when we work together and bring all of our expertise together, that truly allows us to be better together and have a much better opportunity at winning that deal than trying to go it alone. So that was a message that we trained our sales teams on. Another thing that we did is, in the past, we used to have our channel account managers, they were actually not assigned to business partners. They were assigned to end user customers. So they might get a territory that had, 1,000 customers in it, and whatever partner transacted that, they got credit for it. So they weren't driving business with our partners. So we changed that to where now they're not assigned to any end users. They are assigned to the business partners and their business holistically. And the other thing that did is, now they're not trying to hold on to accounts because, I've got this quota to make and I need this deal to make my quota. And so now I'm running an end user deal instead of making a partner successful and letting them run it. So now I have the ability to say to my sellers, hey, why don't you take this opportunity? It's a $500,000 opportunity. I'm going to take that from the channel lead, and I'm going to assign it to one of your sellers so they can go work that deal with our channel. So that fosters relationships, AE to AE relationships. That also gets our sellers to feel the impact of our channel. Our channel's been bringing us business for years. We've just never given any of it to our direct sellers. So that starts to break down those walls. And then we have made a very concerted effort to get our sellers engaged directly with the sellers at our partners so that they can start building those relationships. Because at the end of the day, people buy from people, and they're going to go, we've trained these sellers to say, hey, go get your 5 or 6 partners that you know really well, all their value add, what they can bring to the table, you trust them, and go to town with them. And make them your team. And when you do that, magic happens. And then on top of that, the last 2 things that we've done to really reinforce this with the team is, as we had sellers transition to other roles or retire or move on, we've had the opportunity to backfill a number of our sellers, and every person that we brought on came with a huge channel background. So that really helped because now, Toshiba, his legacy has been, and IBM before that, is to have a large direct selling sales force. And some of our sales reps have been with us for 20, 30, 40 years selling direct. So now they've got these cheerleaders who've had experience with the power of what the channel can do for them, saying, hey, look at the success I'm having. So all of those things combined with the fact that you can never, ever let up on the channel first communication. It comes out of our mouths every single conversation in every event that we have. I'll just give you an example. We just had our sales kickoff. And last year, I don't think the channel was mentioned ever once in a single session or in a single TED Talk or a single, event that we did at sales kickoff. This year, there was not a single presentation from any presenter that did not have a channel first strategy as part of what they were promoting. So it really is a combination of all of those things. And I wish I could tell you we're 100% done and that this is firing on all cylinders. I would say we're probably about 80% of the way there. And we still are working on about 20% of those sellers, getting them more comfortable and moving them around and getting them into the strategy. So I say this all the time. It's an evolution, not a revolution. But we have done a ton of work to make this a reality. And the best proof I can give you that it's starting to work is I just had a business partner technical conference last week, or actually the week before last, where I had a bunch of 34 of our business partners came in and we were, teaching them on all our new products we're launching. And we went, we covered the strategy again in case they hadn't heard it. And when the CEO came in, a comment was made by one of the partners that said, hey, when you guys announced this back in January, we were a little skeptical on whether you could really pull it off because we've heard that before. But we want you to know, Rance, we feel it. We feel the progress you're making, and it's very positive and we love it. So that's the best testament I could give you to the program starting to really work.
That's great to hear. That's we always say. People ask us, from like the RSPA, how's the show going? How's this going? We're like, well, it's not our opinion. It's the reseller's opinion or the software provider's opinion. So thank you for that, for giving the thorough, right, where it's not just a strategy. It's not just one tactic. It's all those things working in concert. Now, Tony, I don't expect that you have 9 points as well, because I don't know. I've never run across any vendor who has something like that. But I guess talk about some of the key tactics that you embrace at Popmenu to balance direct sales and channel sales.
Yeah. Well, I think when you think about resellers in our space, restaurants, there's two control points. You have the back end control point, which is your POS providers that are doing inventory and all these types of things. The front end control point is everything restaurants are doing to attract and engage with consumers. So that's where we are. And so what we do is we plug into those POSs. The POS space, it's kind of similar to the Cisco analogy. If you have a great POS system, maybe you have a very advantageous payment structure with your payments program, that's all great. But again, if the restaurant doesn't have enough guests to service, if they're not fueling it, then they don't get to optimize all the things that this POS provider is doing for the client or can do for the client. And there are some POS providers that are trying to get into the front end space. Not all of them have the resources to be able to execute on that well or at all. And so, if a POS comes to us, first and foremost is we have an integration. So those two systems work seamlessly. So it acts as the all-in-one solution that every restaurant is striving for. So Heartland is a good example. So Heartland, we integrate with them, which means if somebody's using our platform, the orders inject directly into the system. There's no extra steps for the staff. It's efficiency. Well, we know we can drive more traffic to the restaurants. We know our unique user experience can drive a better conversion rate, and we can influence the guest check average. Well, if I'm a Heartland, that's great for my customer. It's also great because now I'm making more money on my payments revenues. So for us, for our perspective, it's, hey, we provide you an opportunity to safeguard yourself from being undercut by another competitor. And then two, we can impact, the revenue of that partner. So I think that's been great for us. Fortunately for us, if you're in the POS space, there's a level of understanding of this restaurant challenges and technology. So I think they understand based on our marketing and based on their experience and hearing and seeing us in the market, they already know that we can do what we say. And so the resellers, there's really no hesitation in wanting to partner with Popmenu, but you will in any relationship. It's like, well, if I've got a task to go sell my payments product and my POS product, so that's always going to be my focus. So if I'm going to represent Popmenu, it has to be really easy for me to articulate, and I have to know that it's going to do what it says. And so we spend a lot of time, like Crystal, educating our partners so that they can do a quick elevator pitch. They know the common objections. They know the big selling points for a vast majority of customers. And then we provide support. So if it's a strategically important client or prospect, we have a team that's dedicated to be there side by side with the reseller or the channel partner so that there's not a game of telephone happening. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
It does. And also, if I can expand upon one point, because I talked to your colleague, John Piccirillo, when we were planning on doing this podcast, because he's our main contact from our RSPA standpoint. And when I asked him about, because they said, we had some resellers who mentioned your name in terms of the Popmenu, manages a balance. And he was like, well, we just do what we say, because if you don't do that, you're going to burn your channel. He's like, it's really not that more complicated than that. And so I guess what are some things that go behind that? Because I see Crystal nodding on here. Like, what are the things that go behind lining with we do what we say? Like, is it contracts and documents and meetings and communications? Can you paint a picture for maybe some of the vendors who have conflict between direct and their channel? What are the things you do to line up that you do what you say?
Well, I think there's a couple of points there. I want to make sure I answer it. So one is we do what we say. Okay, great. Tell me, prove it to me. So we have a lot of data collection and stats, whether that's ordering volume or follower capture or increase in gifts checks. So we have a lot of data that we can share back to both the restaurant owner as well as the reseller partner. So we do spend a lot of time, for example, like monthly recaps we send to the partner so they know the activity that happened in the month, some success stories, why somebody chose us, and then what's been the impact of recent launches. Because the idea is to keep it fresh, top of mind with the reseller partner, and educate them along the way. Because when they see that good things are happening, they want to keep referring you and representing you. So, we do a lot of reporting around dispassionate metrics that we can send to the customer. SEO is a big one. Most restaurants and resellers may not be as ingrained with SEO and what that means as we do. So we do a good job of helping them understand, hey, your client just increased their traffic by 22%, and here they are showing up, the top of searches in their area. So I think a lot of reporting, sharing dispassionate data, doing it consistently, I think those things are important. As far as our direct team, because I think there's another aspect of the question there. I think our direct team doesn't see those as competitors. They see them as an extension of the GTM. If a reseller can go add 10 customers in a market, well, that just means we have 10 more references that we can call out in our organic pursuits. So I think they see it as a really like an extension of the GTM and like a marketing avenue. And so, look, we can be huge, but we still have a small percentage of the market. There's like almost 1 million, independent restaurants in the United States. So it's like there's plenty for a lot of us to go eat, But that hopefully that answers it a little bit. But there's a couple of perspectives.
Yeah, plenty of pie out there. So before I'm going to take a quick commercial break, but before that, Crystal, I'm just curious your reaction to some of the things that John just said there.
Yeah, no, I agree with him. We have to treat our channel like an extension of our teams. They have reach and footprint that we don't have. They're out working adjacent projects that are not necessarily competitive to what we're doing. They have relationships with customers that are very different than the types of relationships that we have. And we as a company have to stop looking at them as competition, and we have to look at them as an extension of our teams. And that's, like I said, that's when the magic happens. So I agree with you, Tony, on that strategy.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, great. We are just going to take a quick pause here, let our listeners and viewers know about the Retail Solution Providers Association. The RSPA is North America's largest community of retail technology VARs, software providers, vendors, and distributors. To accelerate your success through an RSP membership, email membership at gorspa.org. Also, thanks to these companies who support the RSPA community and make this podcast and video series possible. Our platinum sponsor is Blue Star. Our gold sponsors are Cocard, Epson, Heartland, and ScanSource. And then finally, want to remind everybody, registration is open for Retail Now 2025, the Retail IT Channel's #1 trade show, education conference, and networking event. This year's event is set for July 27th through 29th at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. For more information, visit gorsp.org/retail now. Retail now is where the industry meets. All right, so a lot of the tactics that came out of that kind of, weaved in communication and how important that is. And Tony, if you could take this one first, how do you communicate the guidelines, the rules, the best practices to your direct sales team and to your channel partners? What are some methods that maybe some vendors listening to this can take away from?
Yeah, well, we invest a lot in like sales enablement internally, basically training the staff, not just to be able to talk about Popmenu solutions, but to understand the industry, business acumen. We use a tool, we invest in a software called HighSpot, which allows us to create a lot of different training material that can be used both by our internal teams as well as like a reseller or channel partner. So if somebody says, hey, I want to be able to articulate why someone should use an AI phone system, and what are the advantages of it? What are the cons of that? All those kind of things. So we do a lot in sales enablement. HighSpot's one of the things we've really developed there. And then we have various training schools for internal people. And then we have a certification process that we put our partners through, not so much to test them, but to make sure that they're prepared to go out and have success. Because the last thing you want to do is send a reseller out, they have a bad experience just simply because they weren't prepared. And then they're like, well, I don't want to do it. It doesn't work. And it's like, no, it does work. So we invest a lot in enablement, both internally and externally. And we use different tools like a HighSpot would be a good example. So, and then we have various webinars that we open up to the public, but we also really encourage like any reseller or channel partner to join, just like our internal staff. And that could be various topics. Like we did one recently on 3 ways to boost your revenues in a stressed, economic environment. Like here's some best practice. So combination of things, just keep iterating on it. But I think the big thing is just constantly sharing stuff. And we spend a lot of time like it's about really just being a business consultant first and foremost. Like if somebody's on our webinar and I'm like, hey, if you don't choose Popmenu, that's okay. But take some of our information and go negotiate better rates or look for other providers who do similar things because your business will be better. Because ultimately, if the restaurant business is healthy, we're always going to be a byproduct of that. So we're always going to benefit from that. So.
Yeah, it seems like you're using multiple communication avenues. And Crystal, you kind of referred to this earlier where you said you have to say it over and over and over. And I think about the late, great Jack Welch, where he said, you have to say it so often, you were just choking on the words as they're coming out of your mouth again. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this again, but everybody needs to hear it over and over. So, Crystal, let me pivot to...
In Winning, he talks about that. He says, if I wake you up in the middle of the night, you should be able to recite exactly what I trained you. You're right. Yeah, I love that. I remember that book. We read it.
Yeah, I got introduced to Jack Welch on podcast before like everybody had smartphones. So I had a friend who would like download them off your laptop onto a disc, and I'd play them in my car. That's how I used to listen. Jack Welch is like my original podcast to listen to. So yeah, the Welch way with Jack Welch and Susie Wetloff, Susie Welch is his last wife. I'm not going to go down that path anymore. Crystal, I talk about your communication guidelines and rules with direct sales and channel. You alluded to it, but if you could give a little bit more color on that.
Yeah. So first we put the rules of engagement and the deal registration terms and conditions. We put all that into writing. And so when you come into our deal registration tool, you have to acknowledge those terms and conditions. So the rules are out there, the guidelines are out there. We also did a webinar. We did an official announcement where we walked through all of that within, actually the announcement is coming out here in a couple weeks where it'll go we did the webinar, but now we're going to do an announcement where we walk through kind of all of those terms and conditions. We've done it with the conferences. We brought it up again. I talked about the strategy. I talked about the tools. We are building some new tools from an enablement perspective we have our traditional tools that we've used to do product enablement, but this new tool I'm rolling out this summer will give us certification capabilities and learning path capabilities. So now not only will I have product learning path that they can go take if they want to get knowledgeable in one of our products, but I'll also have, doing business with Toshiba learning paths, where in there they will get to see all of those things. And to your point, Tony, about putting sales tools into our channel partners' hands, we're rolling out a AI sales coach and an AI sales role play tool as part of our new product launches, where let's say yeah. So if a channel partner is going to go talk to a CIO and they're a little nervous, and they can go and role play with an avatar and it'll grade them on, their accuracy, their performance, and their speed.
I like that.
And
you got to
those kinds
send me
of
that
things.
tool. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
I love a good role play.
It's really, really cool. People are afraid to do it, but now you can do it on your own time with an avatar. So, and we've previewed that with the channel already. The new, we're launching it this month, and they're just really excited about it. So yeah, at the end of the day, though, it's really about being a broken record, both to our internal sales teams and our channel teams. And the other thing that I think I did with our top partners is I've been doing in-person visits. I've been doing the tour around North America. I'm still not done with that yet, making sure and sitting down with them, answering their questions, getting on calls with them, one-on-ones. And quite frankly, since I'm still in build mode, I'm still taking in feedback. I just had a call this morning with one of our partners, gave me some feedback on the way we were doing pricing, and I'm taking that back, and I'm going to make some adjustments before I launch my new price book. So, being very collaborative with our partners on this whole journey, like, what do you want to see so I can go make it a reality? And, in the other place, we have our partner advisory council that we have. So obviously we always get feedback from them on what we're doing and building. And we just finished our partner NPS survey. So the results are just coming in from that. So we're going to take feedback from all of those different places and build that into my plan as we start to really roll this program out.
Great. And I'm so glad you brought that up about the importance of listening and doing the Net Promoter Score survey and things of that nature, because I don't want anybody to take away the Jack Welch quote and go, well, I just need to keep talking and talking and talking and talking. No. First, you have to listen, and that's going to help shape, and then you can go and talk, and then you can get feedback from the things that you talked about. So we've only got 5 minutes left. I have a whole bunch more questions, but I really want to get to this one. And so, Crystal, if you could take it, and then Tony, you can bring us home with it. So what would you do if a VAR owner, Crystal, would call you and say it's not Toshiba, it's somebody else. Hey, I'm not being treated fairly by my vendor and their direct sales team. What do you recommend I do as a VAR? So what advice would you have for them? And Tony, you can ponder. I'm going to ask you the same question. If you were a consultant for that VAR, what would you ask them? What would you recommend?
Yeah, and I can tell you, I've been on both sides of the table. So I have been in the partner's shoes. I worked for 10 years for a partner before moving over to a manufacturer. And I've been on big manufacturer sides, HP at one point, Toshiba now. So I understand both sides of it. And I will tell you, the most important thing you can do is have open, honest communication with that vendor. Right? You have to sit down, because I guarantee you there are misconceptions on both sides. On the vendor side, they're thinking through, well, the partner's not doing this, or they're not helping me with that, or they did this wrong or that. And then on the channel side, the partner is thinking, well, you're not treating me fairly because you're not giving me the margin I want, or you're not doing this and you're not doing that. You put all of that on the table and be frank and open communication. You will come to a place of a win-win for both companies. Both sides are probably going to have to compromise a little bit to get what you need, but at the end of the day, you are airing it out, because we're not mind readers, right? And having hard conversations lead to a place of trust. When you know, and I just had one this morning. I had a partner yelling at me on something, and I said, I want to hear it. And I said, that's okay, get it out. I said, now, let me tell you what I'm going to go do about that and what I'm going to go work on, right? And they're going to trust me and my word to go and come back to them with something that is probably somewhere of a compromise, right? And so, a wise person told me one time that business begins when trust happens. And that is something that I firmly believe in. And so you only can get that level of trust when you can have those frank conversations and when you do something about it.
Yes.
My word is my bond, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes that's not enough for partners. I had a partner the other day say, okay, that's great. I'm glad you're telling me you're going to do all this, but I want you to put it in writing. And so as a vendor, while my legal's pushing back, going, why are we doing all these teaming agreements? I said, because we have lost the trust of our channel. And, for a various number of reasons, because we had this direct sales team and doing all the things the way we did it in the past, and they don't trust us. And I want to give them that level of trust. So we're going to put it in an agreement. And legal said, okay, that's fine. Let's write up a teaming agreement. And so whatever I've got to do to be able to make them comfortable, those are the things that I am doing. So once we agree on something, here's the plan, this is what we're going to do, I put it in writing, whether it's an email so they have it from me so they can reference back to that, or it's going all the way to legal and getting a teaming agreement of some kind. So doing those things helps you with that rules of engagement that you both agreed on in that open, honest communication. That's really what it boils down to.
They can't just let the VAR keep talking and talking, go, okay, thanks for airing it out. You said you have to get to, then what are we going to do differently going forward? So thank you, Crystal. Tony, again, you're getting a call from a VAR, not a Popmenu VAR, but they're like, I am getting jerked around by my vendor and their direct sales team. Like, what would you tell them to do?
Well, I'd probably regurgitate a lot of what Crystal just shared. I think one is in our space, we're dealing with technology and there's moving parts. And so any time that happens, there's always going to be little things here and there that, there's a bug or something happens and it's about responding quickly. We have a big philosophy. If a reseller's calling me and they're talking about, let's say, a competitor to Popmenu, when you're younger, the natural inclination is say, yeah, they're bad, they're not good. We don't do that philosophy. We try and be more mature. And we focus on the things that we do. Hey, that's a bummer that you've had that experience with that competitor. We've heard some similar things, but look, there's always gonna be challenges. I can tell you how we would handle that situation. And then we try and give them a couple of examples. I'm going to date myself, but there's an old sales methodology, like listen, acknowledge, evaluate, and respond. But for us, we really try and take the high road. We don't talk about our competition, if we know they're doing something wrong, unethical, we try to steer the conversation more to how we handle those situations and then give them more context and perspective. And I think more often than not, that puts you in a better spot. I know for a fact, if somebody's calling me and they spend more time trying to bash their competitors, I'm thinking there's a reason why they're doing that. They don't have enough good stuff to talk about their business, whether that's right or wrong, that's how I think about it. So that we try and, I get to lead from the top down. So I try and instill an approach of saying, well, hey, that's unfortunate that you've had an experience in this industry. We work really hard to overcome those challenges. Let me tell you how we would address that. So I think that's the best you can do. Communication at the end of the day. And then we will have some times where we're on that end. We're a reseller that we work with. They get mad at us for whatever reason. Sometimes it's because they're wanting a lot of service. Well, maybe the business has changed and evolved. Maybe 5 resellers are giving us 12, 15 times the activity than this one person. Well, I can't spend the same amount of time with this person who's giving me far less, but wanting 10 times more attention. And so we have to go back and reset the expectation. So it just goes back to the communication. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it also seems like, Tony, if somebody is not a good fit for working with you or working with another vendor, it's a fine thing to say as well, right?
Absolutely.
It's got to be a mutual partnership.
I think again, when I was younger, I wanted to sell everybody everything, and if I had to be in some gray area occasionally, I would do it. And what you realize is it's much better to be upfront from the very beginning, so neither party wastes their time. And we have had that. We have had channel partners where, especially when we were a smaller startup, we just wanted to sell anything because we kind of had to. But as we matured, as we advanced. For example, if Cisco brings us a client that we know is showing major signs of distress, as great as we are, there's a reason why they're in such distress, right? And so we are not some magic button here. And so we will tell the partner in those examples, hey, we're better off not working with this client. here's some recommendations that I think you can take to them, and here's some other providers they might want to try who's maybe a little bit less expensive. I think you win more because if what happens is if I sign somebody that's not a good fit and it doesn't work, well, that's that sales consultant's view of us, and it's like, no, well, we took a chance because we thought you wanted us to, so we've learned over time, it's much better to say, hey, this person does not really look like a great fit for us. But here's what we will do is we'll send you some information that you can provide that customer so that it looks like you are being attentive to their needs. So we try and do that so they're not empty-handed.
Yeah, no, thank you both for this discussion. It's funny as we've been going through and I'm looking at my notes, a lot of things I've written down. I used to work down the hallway from a psychotherapist who sometimes would counsel couples on their relationships. I'm thinking a lot of the advice you've given today applies to that, right? Value your partner, communicate with them openly, make sure it's very clear who should be doing what by when. And if the end it doesn't work out, maybe you guys aren't meant to be partners with each other, right? This is all just, it goes, it's business to business, but it's all people to people as well. So excellent. Yeah. Well, that does it for this episode of The Trusted Advisor. If you've enjoyed our discussion and marriage counseling advice, be sure to subscribe to the RSPA YouTube channel and the Trusted Advisor podcast so you never miss an episode. Before we go, big thanks again to Crystal Harrison and Tony Roy for sharing their wisdom with us today. Thanks also to RSP Marketing Director Chris Arnold for his production work, Joseph McDade for our music, and last but not least, thanks so much to you for listening. Our goal at the RSP is to accelerate the success of our members in the retail technology ecosystem by providing knowledge and connections. For more information, please visit our website at gorspa.org. Thanks for listening, and goodbye, everybody.